here. I'll move on to Gary. Like people were talking about books, and Gary is a distinguished author. There were so many people in this community when Purna introduced Gary to the community. Everybody's like, "Oh, I grew up. I became a CISO reading Gary's book over here." And in fact, every other day when I see any book mentions, it's rarely that it's not mentioned by Gary. So thanks, Gary. You have been a distinguished author. You have written several books, and then the question here is that, why Purple Book Community? Why did you think there is a need for yet another book, right? Why did you join here? Again, you don't need any benefits here. You have been a kind of a father figure and mentor to the community. And, more important is like, how do you plan to, contribute to this community?
Well, it was kind of interesting. When I was asked, and they were explaining to me exactly what the Purple Book was going to be. I'm actually my fourth book is published next week. So I was just finishing a book that I had written with a couple of co-authors for people new coming into the security industry, and the whole thing about software security had been something that's been bouncing around in my head because I actually came from dev. I actually came from software teams when I was in the military and came over into networks and then got into security and into forensics and into audit and and then later into management. And it's fun. One of my sons is in data science and self-taught himself about 8 different languages now and just loves what he's doing in dev. And now I'm teaching him the cloud and the nuts and bolts behind it, how to stand up servers and how all the pieces come together. But for me, it was just it just resonated. I guess for me, it's you can have a site where you can get some templates or you can get some stuff to download it and play with. But if I can have a community, if I can have a community of people, where there's action, where they're doing things, where they care about what they're doing, and they care about each other, and they work together. I want to be a part of that. Because you can actually have more impact, and you can get more things done. I hear all the time from many of my peers and counterparts that we have there are issues in code. There are issues with we're purchasing this app or we're purchasing this solution, and then later on it's a piece of crap. This doesn't work, and you got to get this fixed, and you got to work with the vendor to try to go ahead and wait for the next change to come out, and hopefully they'll fix the issues, the bugs that you've discovered. Why don't we go ahead and start that before? Why don't we go ahead and actually start putting together? There's already framework. There's already some amazing stuff out there, but I think what lacks is people will develop content and they post it, but having the community where we come together and we actually talk to each other and we actually explain how to do things and how not to do things and how we can partner with each other and how we can share information back and forth with each other. That's where what I've seen has been lacking. And so that was the reason why, I wanted to join. I mean, those meetings I have been able to, attend, every time I've had 3 or 4 pages of notes. Because there was things like I wanted to go look up, or there was books I wanted to go ahead and buy and add to my library because I'm constantly reading, and I guess for me, it's for me the reason I write and I keynote and I mentor everything is because I really look at that I'm very blessed to be where I'm at and to do what I'm doing, and I love working with people and just sharing and doing stuff, and so for me the way I plan to contribute is obviously. I look at things through a security executive lens and managing teams and working with executive teams and boards and stuff. And so my thing is I'm looking at, as I work with you and work with this community, is how do I explain to my fellow CISOs that security and dev need to work together and that you can work together. It isn't oil and water. And that there are ways to go ahead and share back and forth and how you stand up teams to be able to support each other within an organization. And it actually not only makes the organization more secure, but it gives you both insight into what each of you is doing so you don't step on each other, so you don't interfere with projects, so you don't cause problems. And so that's my thing is, I want to write on the fact that, the whole DevSecOps piece is not an evil word, but that, it's a process. It's a community. It's a way in which, a methodology in which we can work together and here's some insights, here's some lessons learned, here's things that we've seen as a community so that we can do it better.
Yeah, no, that's a great point here, Gary. And as you mentioned, you have a lot of battle scars, if you will, and you have learned. And if you're humble enough to mention that, if you end up walking with 2 or 3 pages, I end up right having like tons and tons of pages over there.